saw on Twitter that the Cycle Superhighways are totally empty. Shall we go and see if we can find an empty Cycle Superhighway? The idea for this little film came about because I was commuting home yesterday on Cycle Superhighway 3 along the Embankment in central London. It's been open for 2 years now, but it's got this fun new little feature that's a little counter that senses you as you ride over it and counts you, and it displays the count of the number of people who've ridden along the cycleway that day and since it started counting. And so on my way home I just stopped off for a few minutes next to this counter, taking a few pictures of the sort of people who were riding past, and there happened to be once or twice some lulls in the group of people going past, so I took some pictures of the empty spaces between, contrasted with the very high number. There were more than 10,000 people had gone past by that point in the evening that day. And so with very little premeditation, very little thought put into the idea, I riffed off a little bit of a running joke which has built up with the superhighways, because when they were being built and around about the time they first opened, there was a little bit of a trend amongst the taxi drivers especially, but also the sort of people who travel around in the back of taxis, to wait for a moment when the superhighway was empty, which was easier before they actually officially opened it, take a picture of the empty superhighway and stick it up on social media to complain that, oh, nobody's using them, they were a waste of money, etc. So I fired off these 3 or 4 silly sarcastic tweets along those lines. Thought maybe it might amuse half a dozen or so people who are in on that joke. But it seemed to strike a bit of a chord and got retweeted quite a few more times than I expected, several hundred times. It seems like taxi drivers the world over have the same sense of imagination and have been making the same complaints about the cycleways in their cities. Despite that, there were still a few people who didn't quite get the joke of tweets complaining that the superhighway was empty next to a great big machine declaring that 10,000 people had been along it that day. Most fun, I think, are the ones who, even having now had the joke explained to them, have decided that it's all some conspiracy, and the photos are actually proof that these prominent counters are displaying fake numbers. So we've got the fake superhighway counters story growing fast in Twitter's conspiracy-minded taxi driver community. And they, ever wedded to facts and evidence, have demanded to see the video proof that these counters are correctly counting the number of people going past them. So I figured we'd pop down there and take a look. In fact, I did actually also collect, I had the video running, perhaps I'll put that over this intro piece and you can see what was happening down there when I sent those tweets. Look at this. There's nobody using it. Look at all this coming the other way. There's nobody using it. Look at this. No one's using it. Well, there's one person, but they're stopped. That doesn't count, right? Look at that carriageway. Absolutely nobody on it. There's almost nobody in it, just a pedestrian. Oh, perfect, there's nobody in it. Quick, take a picture now. Look at it, nobody there. It's empty. Damn it. Here you go. There's no one in it. It's empty. No one's using it. I'll post that one on social media. Perfect, the counter there has just ticked over around number 11,200. The traffic lights are about to change for the road. Let's count the vehicles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. One of those is a coach, so give us some credit for that. 10, 11 motor vehicles. 12. 13 motor vehicles. Is that 14? It hasn't really made it all the way through traffic lights. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. I think that's 28, maybe I was counting, maybe that's 29, that's 29. 30, 31, 32 motor vehicles-ish, perhaps. I might have miscounted some there. And the counter has made it up to 30. Two lanes of motor traffic carrying 30 vehicles, and the cycleway carrying the same. person in that car, one person in that car, one person, two people. Motorist tapping out his cigar there as he waits at the lights. But yeah, this Cycle Superhighway is elite capture of Transport for London by the cycling lobby, apparently. The elite cycling lobby. So I guess there were one or two vaguely serious points being made here, which a lot of people replying to the original tweets got. A few people didn't necessarily quite get. I guess the most obvious one in there was that it's not really that difficult to get a photo of an empty Cycle Superhighway for Twitter, because the traffic lights hold people back. People group up, bunch up, big bunches come along here, and there are gaps between the bunches. A picture of an empty Cycle Superhighway on Twitter is utterly useless, and the people who still persist in posting them only really make themselves look ridiculous. But I guess more than just that, this does neatly illustrate that this is an extremely efficient mode of transport, not just cycling generally, but specifically having the dedicated infrastructure for it. In fact, the situation here right now demonstrates things quite nicely. You've got what at first glance looks like a lot of traffic down there, a lot of cars building up, but they've got themselves stuck in some jam for the next traffic lights. Actually, if you look carefully and start counting them, there's maybe a dozen or so that you can see not going very far. The road isn't carrying many cars through here. At the same time, the superhighway doesn't look very busy at the moment. It's not peak hours, it's gone 8 o'clock now. But actually, if you counted how many cars go through in a minute or two and looked at the counter down below, you'd probably find at least as many cyclists are getting through here as cars. They're just not getting themselves stuck in a really conspicuous traffic jam that covers the entire length of the road. It's a really weird mindset. It's one of these weird situations that our car culture has got us into, where we think that somehow a huge traffic jam is some sign of success for a transport mode, and an empty scene shows that it's failing. No, the empty superhighway is demonstrating brilliantly what the advantages of this mode of transport are. It has a small footprint on the city. It is quick and convenient. Its near invisibility is a good thing. Couple of last pictures for shout out to @CS3Count on Twitter, who is collating all of these counts, graphing them over time. Look at this. There's nobody using it. It's brilliant.